What are those red things that you wear around your ankles? What are those red things that I see when you're on your winter trips? These are some of the questions I've had recently, and what they're talking about are these, okay? And I'll show you what they are, and I'll also talk to you about the story of where they come from and how I got to have a set and how I use them. It's really interesting. There's some really quite cool knot nerdery in here as well, but fundamentally these are a really useful thing for winter trips, and I'll show you exactly how they're used in this video. Let me tell you a little bit about these then before I show you how they are used. They are known as worte or shoe bands. They are a traditional part of the Sami clothing. The Sami are the reindeer herders found in northern Fennoscandia, so what's now northern Sweden, northern Norway, Finland, and part of Murmansk as well. That part of the north of the land that's above the Baltic there, if you like, and they're traditionally reindeer herders, and they have some fantastic clothing. They're quite fond of some colourful clothing, or at least some colourful trim as well. And one of the things are the shoe bands, and they're traditionally used to seal the bottom of trousers to boots. And of course they were using reindeer skin boots back in the day, and they work equally well with modern boots as well. I've used these for many years. I was first introduced to them when I was working up in northern Sweden. I was working with Lars Falt, but I also had the pleasure of working with some Sami when I was there as well. They worked on various aspects of what we were doing, and we had quite a lot of interaction with them, so I learned a reasonable amount about their culture and some of their handicrafts and some of their traditions, and this is one thing that I was shown how to use when I was there, and I've adopted ever since. And they are woven out of wool. The traditional way of weaving them was kind of like finger weaving, but using a small loom and something that looks like a netting needle. And you can put all sorts of quite intricate patterns on them, kind of like pixelated patterns if you like. Mine are quite plain, they're just two shades of red, but I quite like that. I'm often wearing greens and whites in the winter, and the red's quite a nice colourful counterpoint. I mean, it's the whole reason I'm making this video really, because people spot them, even though they're quite a small part of my clothing. Overall, people spot them in videos and spot them in photographs of previous winter trips and go, Paul, what are those red things around your ankles? And I've answered a few emails recently about what these are, and so I thought I should make a video about them, and then hopefully more people get to know about them, because there isn't much information about them on the internet. And if you tie them correctly, they are really easy to undo, but they will stay tied all day, which is great in the cold. So you put them on in the morning and they'll stay on as long as you need them to, and then when you've finished at the end of the day, you can take them off and they come off really easily as well. And so there's some clever little bits of knot nerdery in there as well, which I will share with you shortly. I got my set from, of all places, a Sami butcher's shop in the north of Sweden in a town called Kiruna, when we used to do some trips up there, personal trips. My friends and I used to call in at the Torneus, the Sami butchers in Kiruna, and we would go in there and stock up on reindeer meat and elk meat and various other things before we headed out to the bush for our cold weather trips. And of course, taking all of that meat, it stays fresh, it stays cold. You're basically camping in a freezer, so that was fantastic. And we needed the energy, and it was a great combination, having taken some wild meats with us back out to the bush as part, a significant part of our ration. So we always relished going in there. And then one year we went in there and they had some of these worte hanging up behind the counter, and various different designs, but my eye was immediately drawn to the red ones, and so I purchased those, and I've been using them ever since. And so they've lasted me many years, more than a decade now. I've had this particular set. I originally had another set that I was given that were a little bit short for me. They'd been made in a handicraft class that was run by one of the Sami that I used to work with, and so I'd been given those and I did use them, but they were a little bit short for me. These are longer, and they work perfectly, and I've used them for many years, and they do last. You'd think that they'd be quite fragile, being down at ankle height, doing everything that you're doing in the forest, and this is woven wool, but they're remarkably resilient, and they don't frost up, and you might get a bit of snow on them, but they're easy to get off at the end of the day, as I say. Let's have a look at how to tie them. This is really fascinating to me, and I hope you find it useful too. Okay, let's have a look at how we use these. Okay, so even with really baggy trousers like these are Filson Mackinaws. I do use these in the winter. I normally have some thermals underneath. It's spring in the UK as I record this, but I normally have some thermals under this. If you're interested in my thermals, there's another video on that somewhere. But and also I'll have thicker socks on than I've got today with these Yorn Cunningham boots. And also, again, if you're interested in footwear, there'll be a video on my winter footwear. But fundamentally, the point here is that even with some quite thick but baggy wool pants that don't seal at all with my boots here, there's no elastication or anything in the bottom here, or no draw cords, these will work very well. Okay, and there's some clever little bits here. Some clever little bits. Okay, so first off, there's two ends to my vorta here, and one is longer than the other, and I use the shorter end, this end, to start off with. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that trouser leg up, and I'm going to find some laces that fit just below where I want the trouser to tie off. Okay, so probably about here. Okay, I want a good overlap with the boot. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is double this over. I'm going to make a bite with this wool cord here, and then I'm going to go underneath the lace that I want to attach to. Put that bite underneath the lace, and then what I'm going to do is I pop that little bobble at the end through, and then I just allow that all to pull up and that bobble to sit against the knot, and that's all I need to do. Okay, that's all I need to do. Because this is on the end, it works like a stopper. That is all I need to do to attach, and that will come undone quite nicely and easily at the end as well. Then what I'm going to do is take up the trousers. I'm going to keep the seams on the sides so I don't have like skew whiff pants, and then I'm going to take the cord and start to wrap it around like so, and then I start to get the tape like so, and it doesn't have to seal the bottom, but I do want a good overlap, and by seal the bottom I mean it doesn't have to sit right on the hem here. What it needs to do is seal the trouser to the ankle, and some people say a bit of overlap is good, like don't just have them all in one line on top of each other, best to have them spread a little bit, and it does give a little bit of warmth to your ankle. One thing I've noticed though is not to do them too tight, because then you start to cut circulation off to your feet, so you need them tight enough that it holds the trousers in place, and not so tight that you start to feel like it's at all squeezing your ankle. So sort of gentle tightness, if you like. Okay, and then just make sure that you've got the trouser overlap tucked in. Just keep going around, and then you get to the cord, and then what we're going to do again is make a bite with the cord like so. Okay, and then bring that there, and then I'm going to take my finger back around underneath and put the bite underneath that last bit of cord, and bring the bobble forwards, and then I'm going to wrap that around a little bit like you would with a timber hitch. This isn't analogous to a timber hitch, but wrap it around, and then you'll end up with a bit of a pull at the end. You can then cinch that down a bit, and then just tuck the last little bit in like so, and that will stay there fastened, and it's all tucked away. It's all nice and neat. And then one of the things I really like about this, once we come to remove them, is you grab the bobble and you pull that, and it comes off, quick release, and then you can take them off, gather them up, like so, and then this bobble that I put through my laces, I pull down, that loosens that enough that I can bring the bite open again, I can bring the bobble through, that pops out and they are off my boots. Very, very easy to do. They don't get frosted up. They don't get stuck. Even they might have a bit of snow on them, but you can, if it's frosted on, you can hang them up inside the tent or the cabin. Otherwise, you can hank them up a bit like a piece of paracord. Like so. Hang them up like that, or pop them away so they don't get lost. Like so. Just pop a little bite through, and then they're ready to deploy again when I need them. Well, there you go. Now you know all about water. And if you found that interesting, check out the next video here that YouTube's going to suggest to you. That's probably really good as well.